Dear World Economic Forum, how are you? I know you're probably busy planning for next year's multi-million-dollar elite gathering where you fly private jets that emit as much CO2 in a week as 350,000 cars, so you can all sit around in expensive suit jackets with slacks of various colors to tackle your self-proclaimed goal of tackling the dire ongoing crisis of climate change and inequality by lecturing the rest of us on how it's our fault. So we need to eat the bugs and be happy with owning nothing. You're probably still assimilating all of this year's hard work on improving the world state, state of the world, through public-private cooperation by shaping global, regional, and industry agendas, just like the ones that no one else ever voted for forever. You know, it sure must be cold up there in the Swiss mountains in the winter, but hey, at least you'll never have to worry about potential hypothermia. Seeing as how 5 straight days of scheduled hourly ass-kissing sure works up a lot of body heat. Oh, not to mention you have all that extra CO2 you've produced misusing the phrase, think outside the box, which you could forgive us all for assuming is probably more than all 7+ billion of the rest of us combined ever could, even if we tried. I sure hope you bring that one guy back so he can talk more about how we are one of the last generations of human beings on Earth because you plan to engineer bodies and brains and minds and use all that data you've hoarded to become the future masters of the planet. It's a weird flex, but hey, you do you. You know, I had a dream we live in a world where all it takes to rise to the top is a little hard work and dedication and an annual membership that costs between $62,000 and $620,000 a year, plus a $29,000 event ticket each year, plus additional fees, travel costs, and at least 5 nights hotel accommodations, and all that jet fuel for the private jet to go to Davos, Switzerland, where one sycophantically kisses up to global corporate elites and pretends to be enthralled by how many times some guy in a suit who paid the big bucks to sit on a panel on a blue stage in a blue room so he could work corporate jargon buzz phrase babble into coherent and almost meaningful complete thoughts, like about how in these unprecedented circumstances your team building has the bandwidth to pivot and move the needle to achieve synergy. The same blue room where soon-to-be 21st century hereditary monarch, because that's still a thing, and Great Reset announcer Prince Charles, who you all actually crowned with the UN goals like the craziest game of televised dress-up of literally all time, stood at a podium and said the phrase sustainable markets like 8,347 times, while you sat in the audience and pretended it doesn't make you want to fall asleep in slow motion, like the van falling off a bridge in some Inception level. Nether dimension of the fourth realm of the dream world your mind goes to hide in, because deep down, you know you sold your soul to the tulpa of commerce, the Skeksis of humanity summoned upon us centuries ago, and you still aren't sure what you're going to do with your life if your god dies. So the plan you came up with is to just keep trying to scare the rest of us by having a guy who literally looks straight out of white cat-petting central casting for a Bond film, and even occasionally dresses like Emperor Palpatine, tell us all how it's going to be, that we'll actually listen and go along with what you say, despite the fact that you all seem about as able to conceive of what the average person in this world needs as the average person in this world is able to catch a break from you.
It's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial.
And that's why I'm saying the general idea of people coming together to discuss the world's problems is sort of interesting. And, you know, we are a world community, whether we like it or not, because the internet has brought us all together in all sorts of crazy ways. But it's the goal of what these people want. You know, the other main thing that they're pushing at the World Economic Forum is they really want us all pushed towards that metaverse. They want us strapped in with those glasses, living in that Ready Player One. If your audience has not seen the movie or read the book, it was a Spielberg movie a couple years ago, but it's a book from the 80s, I think. They want us strapped in that digital world. And in essence, we are just the battery. Our carbon bodies are the battery for the digital world. You should also watch The Matrix.
I was going to say, this is
Vendetta.
literally
There's
The
a
Matrix.
whole bunch of stuff.
Literally, we
it's The Matrix.
Yeah, wow, fair income.
We're all Keanu Reeves now. Are you Neo? Are you Neo? But go to the original Matrix, and you can basically figure out what the World Economic Forum's trying to do to us.
Well, yeah, it's quite bizarre.
The World Economic Forum laid out some of those problems in its global risk report. It warns that COVID-19 and the war in Ukraine have thrust the global economy into different times. It says, quote, the resulting new economic era may be one of growing divergence between rich and poor countries and the first rollback of human development in decades.
Just last week, the World Bank warned of a possible global recession. I imagine that will be one of the topics that they'll be talking about.
I think you said it right. It's a creepy event. I mean, these are people that claim to be wanting transparency and openness, but as we discovered this week in our reporting earlier, they hide their own finances, both for the World Economic Forum and for the Klaus Schwab Foundation. It shouldn't be lost on people that this is a group based in Switzerland, which has the most restrictive banking rules, allowing for people, including criminal syndicates, to hide their wealth.
Something outlined in this report is the risk of a polycrisis, which is the word of the moment and the word of Davos. It's essentially multiple global crises happening at once that knock into each other like billiard balls. Is this a new phenomenon?
The difference here is there is an obsession with how everyone else will live their life, while they certainly will not partake in that. These people, I assure you, will not be giving up their gas stoves that their very expensive Michelin star chefs are cooking on. They will not give up their private jets, as you're talking about. They will not give up their Bentleys and their fancy cars as they put us all out of, put all our gas cars out of commission. Everything they do is to control another set of people.
The QR code will be the so-called mark of the beast, marked like livestock and no longer free. The QR code has already become the standard for DNA data storage. We can now scan a specimen's QR code and extract the entire genomic map. And we can create a creature from this data. George Church of Nebula Genomics explains how his company has the ability to read ancient DNA, write, and edit it with CRISPR.
We can read the woolly mammoth genome, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. These things have been extinct for a long time. We can read this ancient DNA, and we can now write it. We can edit the elephant genomes with CRISPR again, and we've done this. We've made 15 edits so far of bringing back extinct DNA.
He said in a 2013 interview with Der Spiegel that DNA can be assembled into an embryo and planted inside of a human woman. Church's Nebula Genomics wants to give people the opportunity to sell their genetic information for digital tokens. And he has Hollywood's Morgan Freeman to help promote and normalize his radical modern-day Frankenstein work. Stamping a human's DNA genome onto their mark is one thing, but in order to store a person's entire life onto a single QR code and have it utilized efficiently across the entire web, they are using the blockchain. Blockchain technology allows information to be stored by a tamper-proof ledger that others on the chain can monitor and validate in real time, and it is being adopted in nearly every major industry. With the help of big pharma and the media, the bankers are corralling everyone inside their rentals, wired up to the Internet of Things, with a QR digital ID that holds their entire DNA genome on the blockchain and managed by artificial intelligence, just as the Rockefeller Foundation announced in their 2020 publication, Mapping an AI Future, and the UK Ministry of Defense in their 2021 publication, Human Augmentation, The Dawn of a New Paradigm. Marked like livestock and no longer free. Unless, of course, we all say no.